of John Kasich and of John Husted, and forgive me if I'm pronouncing their names wrong, and Mandel, who is just drowning in ethical conflict and scandal. This state needs a shower, and our candidates are that shower. Our candidates are the breath of fresh air. We need to make sure that voters can have confidence in who's governing again. We need to make sure that you have elected officials who are not hell-bent on blocking women's access to health care. Just to give you the really sordid, unfortunate list of things that Ohio Republicans have led the charge on since taking office. You would think that, especially in a state like Ohio, who was disproportionately impacted during the economic downturn, and who has struggled to come back, and now is finally starting to see recovery, and jobs are being created, manufacturing centers are being stood up. But you would think that that would be the focus of the Republican legislature and the governor. No. No, their priorities were to defund Planned Parenthood, to impose a gag rule in rape crisis centers, to mandate medically unnecessary ultrasounds on women, and to throw so many obstacles and rules and put so many obstacles and rules in place, seemingly to deny women access to women's health care centers. I mean, the obsession with women, and not in a positive way, is really, really detrimental to our well-being, to the opportunity for us to make sure that we can be successful. And you know, if it only stopped at women's health care, that would be bad. But to make matters worse, they also are totally ignorant and insensitive and callous and indifferent to making sure that women have economic opportunities, and fail to recognize that 40% of households are led by a woman who's the main source of income in that household. 40%. That's just unbelievable. And yet women still only earn 77 cents for every dollar a man earns. Now you hear that statistic and your eyes might start to glaze over. But what that means over the working life of a woman is that she loses $430,000 during the entirety of her working life. I'm pretty sure that every single one of us, that's real money. I mean, real money that can help you buy a house, that can send all your kids to college, that can make sure that you have that's the difference between whether or not you join the ranks of the middle class or not. And that is not, it is not right that simply by accident of your gender, that is determinative of whether or not you would earn the pay that you deserve. That's why President Obama signed the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act, Equal Pay Act, to make sure that, and it was the first bill he signed into law, to make sure that the Equal Pay Act signed 50 years ago actually meant something and had some teeth. And that's why Democrats have been fighting to make sure that the Equal Pay Act means something. Equal pay for equal work. You know, the Republicans talk a good game, work for equal pay for equal work. Yeah, while the majority of them voted against the Lilly Ledbetter Act. While the majority of them not only vote against, but continue to block the Paycheck Fairness Act. Because what does equal pay mean if, as an employee, you aren't able to know what your colleagues who are doing the same work actually make? And your employer right now can penalize those employees for sharing that information so that a woman has awareness of whether there's a disparity, and then can follow up and hold her employer accountable and make sure that the Equal Pay Act actually can be enforced. Democrats are for passing the Paycheck Fairness Act. We've sponsored the Paycheck Fairness Act, and we've focused on making sure that economic opportunities for women are a high priority. Because jobs and the economy are still the #1 issue, even though we've started to see a recovery. We know that recovery could be so much more robust if we were working together. It could be so much more robust if we actually increased the minimum wage to $10.10 an hour, so that more people have an opportunity to see that if they work hard and play by the rules, that they can achieve what their dreams are. but yet the Republicans refuse to allow a vote on the minimum wage. It's so transparent and obvious why they won't allow a vote, because they're afraid to vote against it. And they're afraid to stand up to their big business friends, their big, fat cat corporate contributors who oppose it. And that's unacceptable. I mean, it's unacceptable in America when you work a full-time job and you don't earn enough to not be forced to be on public assistance. The average minimum wage worker makes $15,000 a year who works full-time. That's just unacceptable. So we have to band together. We have to make sure, as women and as Democrats, that we never again go through a 2010 election. 2010 was a nightmare. We've watched that movie and we've seen the ending, and I never want to see it again. I know you don't either. So what we have to do is we have to focus on making sure that women understand what's at stake in this election. And that's on all of us. None of us should wake up the day after Election Day on November 5th this year saying shoulda, woulda, coulda, right? We all have to make sure that we're doing our part. Now, this is a group of leaders. It's a group of leaders like Isabel Farmer, who is a DNC member and who I'm so glad is here with us today, and thank you so much, because I have two groups of people that vote for me, the constituents that I represent in the 23rd District in South Florida, and our DNC members, so glad